Crossover Danganronpas can be really, really fun. I know it sounds morbid, wanting to see some of our favorite characters from media, well, kill each other, but it's a bit more than that. Because Danganronpa is more than just watching a battle royale, at least good Danganronpa games are. It's about the interpersonal relationships and drama that form in this situation. The emotional bonds that are created that actually make us care when these characters die. It's a delicate balance with pre-established characters, wanting to keep them in character, but also write the drama that comes from a Danganronpa killing game. All this to say, it's tough, especially when some of your characters are the Powerpuff Girls. Yes, Cartoons in Danganronpa is, as the title implies, a crossover fangan featuring various cartoon characters from shows such as Invader Zim, South Park, and Ed, Edd and Eddy. It's a video series created and uploaded by That Cheesy Bee on YouTube. It's currently on the Chapter 1 trial, and this is the fangan that we're going to go over today. I first watched Cartoons in Danganronpa a while ago, like over a year ago. But with the recent release of the first part of the trial, I sat down and rewatched the whole series leading up to it. I've gotten some people requesting this series, and I'm also deep back into my Gravity Falls obsession after the Book of Bill breathed new life into the fandom. And since Dipper is the protagonist of this fangan, with Mabel in tow, it just felt fitting to review it. So, let's grab our journals and remote controls and jump into Cartoons in Danganronpa. We open with some backstory about Hope's Peak in this universe. It was founded by Professor Membrane of Invader Zim in an attempt to cultivate talent. And one of said accepted students is Dipper Pines, the ultimate detective. Okay, side note, did anyone else, have a crush on Dipper as a kid that has now evolved into a crush on Ford when they got older? I think I might have a type. Regardless, when I was first watching, I always thought Paranormal Investigator would be more fitting given the contents of his journal and the events of Gravity Falls. But I would later learn why that talent wasn't given to him. So, for now, let's move on to his sister, Mabel, the ultimate sweater designer, and the second rep from Gravity Falls. Every series represented in this fangan has 1, 2, or 3 characters from it, which I think is a good number. It allows for some of the characters to have history with each other, without overloading the cast with representation from one franchise. Back in the story, Dipper promptly passes out, a la Makoto Naegi, waking up in a room with the rest of our unfortunate cast. After a brief conversation and appearance from Monokuma, they decide to split off, and we get our classic roaming around the school while doing introductions. After Mabel, we go down the line of characters. Ed and Eddy from Ed, Edd and Eddy, Eric Cartman and Kyle from South Park, Vendetta and Charlotte from Making Fiends, Dib, Gaz, and Zim from Invader Zim. Side note, Dib is actually the ultimate paranormal investigator, hence why this talent was not given to Dipper. Blossom and Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls, Jenny from My Life as a Teenage Robot, Star Butterfly from Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and finally, Morty Smith from Rick and Morty. And this is where I have to make a confession. As much as I love animation and cartoons, and how much I adore Gravity Falls, it's also the only show represented in this cast that I've seen all the way through. I've seen one episode of Invader Zim, some Powerpuff Girls when I was pretty little, and 2 or 3 seasons of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, making it the next most familiar show to me. Which, if you know what happens in this fangan, you know that knowledge is not going to help me all too much. My point is, due to unfamiliarity with most of these franchises, I cannot accurately determine if the characterization of most of these characters is accurate to the source material. So, if you've seen all 78 episodes of the Powerpuff Girls, please let me know. I would love to hear what people think. Anyway, The gang all gathers in the gym as Monokuma makes his grand entrance, being a part of the lore of this universe, and he explains the rules of the killing game as the prologue comes to a close. And that's where I'm gonna stop really summarizing the story. Partly because I think you should go watch it yourself without me spoiling everything, but also because everything I've said so far pretty much extends to the rest of the content we have. If this video is well received, maybe I'll do a full analysis on Chapter 1 and its writing once it's actually finished, but even if I'm not going into story details anymore, I would like to comment on one aspect of the trials: the minigames. I am a sucker for unique or original minigames in fangans. And I am not being hyperbolic when I say these might be my favorite ones I've ever seen, even if you can't play them by the nature of this being a video series. Non-stop debates have been reskinned and feature each student on a TV screen as you use your remote to either counter statements or pause them to get more information. This reminds me of the press mechanic from Ace Attorney, and I think it's awesome. If I did have one critique of this section, I think the music track that plays here is a little chill and low-key for a non-stop debate, at least compared to Danganronpa's music, which really emphasizes the chaos of the discussion. But this is such a creative spin on Danganronpa's core mechanic, and I cannot emphasize enough how much I love it. We also have Channel Chasers, assumedly named after the best Fairly Odd Parents episode, which is a sort of mass panic debate meets consent mechanic. You have to flip through channels of various characters who are explaining what they think happened, in order to identify the scenario that you agree with. This one is a really cool idea, and I get that you need it to be on one screen to simulate the actual flipping through channels thing, but I do think if this was a game, it would have been better to have 3 screens playing at once, so you can actually see everybody's statements and choose what to focus on, instead of just hoping to flip to the right channel at the right time. But since it's a video series, this is less of an issue. I just wanted to bring the suggestion up. The last original minigame that we've seen so far is channel surfing. It's sort of like Logic Dive meets Argument Armament, and it is awesome. It's so dynamic, the music is so hype, and it has Dippy Fresh. 11 out of 10, no notes. This is perfection. Before we wrap up, I think this is the right time to talk about my favorite aspect of the entire series: the presentation. They absolutely nail it. All of these characters are very well drawn, the backgrounds are detail-rich and create a very fitting atmosphere for the game. One of my favorite details is this painting in the cafeteria that changes every so often. The sprites also got some touch-ups by the time the trial rolls around. You can really see it in the South Park characters with the texturing. The voice acting is similar in implementation to Danganronpa, in that there's partial voice acting in the daily life with full voiceover during the trials. The voice actors range a little in quality, but I have to give kudos to Cartman's VA. They really nail the comedy of the character, and it was definitely the most consistent laughs I got out of the series.
I was eavesdropping on you. Fucking stop, goddammit!
Another aspect of the presentation that just blew me away on a rewatch was the music. They do use some of the original tracks from Danganronpa, but there's also a number of unique mixes and songs, and they go so hard. Like, listen to this remix of Mr. Monokuma's Lesson. Do you hear that? The sample of Seatbelts, Everyone? That's from the Magic School Bus.
Seatbelts, everyone!
It is so cool, and I need to stop before I geek out too much over all the little references in the series. But that's what makes it so great, in my opinion. The passion. You know those collectible Monokumas in the Danganronpa games? Here, they were placed with dolls of various cartoon characters to pay homage to other series not represented in the story. You can also see this in the present options during free time events, and even the little sound cues that play during each character's intro card are customized to each show.
It was a smack for good luck! Hope you have fun out there, bro!
That's so neat, and I know I probably sound like such a massive dweeb about this, but I love seeing details and references like this. It's something only crossover fangans can really do since they feature existing IPs. And I wanted to close with this section because I think it really encapsulates what makes cartoons in Danganronpa so great. The passion. I don't think it's entirely perfect, but it has so much heart and effort put into it that it really does pay off, and I highly recommend you give it a shot. I've linked cartoons in Danganronpa in the description. I know I certainly enjoyed my rewatch, and thanks so much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. By the way, I'll be making a community post about this too, but I want to briefly go over what's happening for the next few months with this channel. This is my last shorter video that I'm going to be posting for a while. I will be taking the month of September off from YouTube for a couple of reasons. One is I'll be returning to university, and the other is I'm directing another indie game for the Spooktober Game Jam, whose work period is the month of September. I just won't have time to make videos. I hope to get back into the swing of things in October, ideally with some spooky games. So, if you have any recommendations for that, please drop a comment. As for November, I have an alliterative theme planned that I'm hoping I'll have time to execute. That said, I don't want to leave you guys with nothing for all of September. I am working on one video that I hope to release for my birthday. It's going to be very off-brand for the channel, but hey, I hope you check it out anyway. What's it about? Well, I'll leave that a surprise, and hey, what's that noise?